As writers, I think we sometimes see inspiration as this sort of mystical thing that catches us sometimes, but when we start to demystify it, I feel like that's where the real magic begins. So, what is inspiration? On one hand, inspiration can be used to mean a small concept that sparks a larger idea. This one's a little bit more concrete. On the other hand, inspiration can mean the internal desire to create, to be creative, aka motivation. Something that I used to feel as more of a newbie writer, and that I think a lot of beginner writers struggle with feeling, is the idea that you can't write unless you're inspired. Kind of getting stuck in that feeling or idea that unless you feel like a burst of inspiration to be writing, you just can't get words on the page. It's like sitting around and waiting for the muse to strike, but the muse is some kind of fairy that just goes around with a club and hits people on the head, and finally they're struck with inspiration and creativity. I'm sure for many writers, this works for them. If you feel a burst of inspiration, that is when you write, and that's cool if that works for you. But if it doesn't, that's okay too. The idea that writing does not have to be this way is not a new idea by any means. There are many prolific authors who share the same sentiments. When I first started writing, this was the mindset that I had, that I can't write anything good unless I feel inspired. I had this kind of romanticized idea of what writing was supposed to be, and if I wasn't writing this way, I was doing something incorrectly. But the right way to write is what's right for you. Say that 10 times fast. Now, if this works for you, then please by all means ignore this and continue writing in the way that works best for your process. But this is for the young writers that were like me. If you're struggling and you don't want to be, this is for you. When you have an awesome idea, you probably feel really motivated to write. You're like excited to sit down and get words on the page, and the words come more easily to you. But when you're motivated to write, something really awesome happens. You usually get more ideas. When I was a green newbie writer, this was a really big thing for me, was getting over that barrier and seeing, knowing, understanding that I can write even when I'm not inspired. Just know that you can cultivate your own motivation and teach yourself to write even through periods where you are lacking inspiration. For me, one of the biggest things was removing the pressure of quality. Not to say I was sitting down and trying to write poor quality writing, but just the fear of having poor quality writing can really hold you back. You can't edit a blank page is really popular advice. Sometimes you have to write a bad first draft to get to writing something that is great. But it's not just about buckling down and getting words on the page. It is about, through practice, teaching yourself that you can write whenever you want to. Learning that your inspiration does not control your ability to write. The other big thing for me was something that I still do frequently to this day, and that is practicing creating ideas. This is a really great writing warm up for me, and it's something that I like to do pretty frequently. Essentially, just sit down and write a bunch of stupid ideas. They don't have to be stupid, they just have to be ideas. Creating a list of ideas, they can be either related to your current project or just other writing ideas in general. Things like plots, things like character traits, things like world building elements, whatever you got. Something like the characters go through a portal. They get bad directions from a purple alien and end up lost in space. They only have a little bit of food left, so they fight over the last graham cracker. The point is to keep creating, good or bad. Some of them will be stupid, and some of them might not be stupid. The main point of this exercise is just to get the ball rolling, get your creativity started, and start getting words on the page easier, but also to take control of your creativity. Don't rely on a mystical idea of inspiration that won't allow you to start writing. You decide when you get to start writing whether or not you feel inspired. So, here are some quick tips for writing motivation. Firstly, is setting project goals. I like to get an estimate of when I think I can get a project done, and even if I don't meet that goal, it is still helpful to have something to look forward to and know if I keep working consistently, I have 8 weeks left of this draft, 6 weeks left of this draft, 4 weeks left of editing. Two is writing consistently. This does not have to mean writing every day, but writing consistently to your schedule. Whatever works for you. Some people write a whole bunch on the weekends, some people write a little bit in the evenings. Personally, I find if I go an extended period of time without writing, getting back into it is a little more difficult versus if I do a little bit at a time but more consistently. And a lot of writers find success giving themselves deadlines, and if they meet their deadlines, then they get some kind of reward. But the most important thing is practice. Sorry. A few other maybe helpful anecdotes here is don't let a bad mood keep you from writing or making progress towards your writing goals. Keep little reminders of your motivation or reasons for wanting to write this book in the first place. If you practice creating ideas and you practice writing consistently, you will find that it becomes easier as you go. Now, I'm not a seasoned pro, I don't have 30 years of writing experience, but I'm also not a newbie writer. When I was writing my first couple of projects, this is something that helped me immensely, so hopefully this will help someone else too. As always, take what works for you and leave the rest. If you like fantasy adventure novels, you can check out Revenge of the Druid Queen, which is my most recently published book, linked down below. Alright, that's all I got for you, so thanks for watching. Bye!